We are in a situation where the United States has taken on a mediating role, and I applaud the work conducted by the American team under the authority of President Trump. The United States of America, like Ukraine, like all Europeans, wants peace, and this is the central aim of the negotiations that have taken place in recent hours and recent weeks. But it is clear to all of us that when we talk about peace, everyone has their role to play. Everyone has their role to play. Russia has not stopped the aggression. It has given no signal, no proof in this regard. Ukraine is the only one that can discuss the territory. These are its own, recognized by international law and sovereign ones. When we talk about security guarantees, they cannot be discussed or negotiated without the Ukrainians, whose territory it is at the table, and without the Europeans and all the allies of the coalition of the willing at the table, since it concerns the guarantors and also the security of European territory. When we talk about frozen Russian assets, the countries involved and the European Union must be at the table because they are the only ones competent in these matters on this subject. And so, it is important for each of these points that the competences are properly respected. As far as we are concerned, we will continue to progress on what pertains to us. We have thus completed the work on security guarantees. As I mentioned, it is important for Russia's security to provide full clarity to the American mediators in this context of its desire for peace. I have no doubt that we will all remain united alongside Ukraine.
We had a thorough conversation today with the President of France, Emmanuel. I informed him about the work of our delegation, about the reports from Florida. Emmanuel gave his assessment. I appreciate all your advice. Thank you very much. We talked with European leaders, as the President already mentioned, the UK, Germany, Poland, Italy, Denmark, Norway, the Netherlands, Finland, the European Commission, the European Council, and the NATO Secretary General, and thank you for the help in organizing this conversation. Today it was important, very important. Also, thank you for the assistance and to President Trump for the work of his team with our delegation. Today, Emmanuel and I also spoke with our delegations, were in contact with Rustem Umerov, the Ukrainian representative, and Steve Witkoff, the American. Keir Starmer was also with us on this. There will be more contacts, more meetings. These are special days when a lot can change day by day. Yesterday there were negotiations by Ukrainian delegates in America. Tomorrow, as we know, a representative of the U.S. president will be in Russia. We are working very hard to end this war, and it needs to be ended with dignity. And if everyone now works not just actively, but honestly for the sake of peace and precisely for guaranteed security, then we can achieve what is needed for Ukraine, for Europe, and also, I am sure, for America, for the long-term interests of the democratic world. Although it may seem that everyone is on their own, America, Europe, we are all the same. Believe me, we equally need security and normal economic development. And this is our common interest. Hence, our common interest is to live without war. Russia must end this war, which it started and continues. It is solely Russia's war. And it is Russia that must put an end to its aggression. Our joint actions contribute to this. Ukraine's priorities are clear. First and foremost, the protection and security guarantees of preserving Ukraine's independence, preserving our sovereignty. War must not become a profitable affair so that others do not wish to repeat such steps. Therefore, we take principled positions on sanctions, on accountability for war crimes, on the legal status of our territories currently occupied by Russian occupying forces, and regarding Russian assets, on the obligation for reconstruction. The aggressor must pay for the aggression. First of all, meetings took place both yesterday and today. There were several meeting sessions, and the last meetings just finished about half an hour ago, maybe a little more, when we were connecting with Emmanuel's negotiators by phone. Meetings are a process. It has not ended yet. I'll be honest, the territorial issue the most difficult. The question of recovery funds, in my opinion, I'm speaking honestly, and we discussed this, certainly, without the presence of European partners. It's not easy and it's complicated, because the money is in Europe.
Regarding the frozen Russian assets, I have said from the beginning, we will find an option that technically answers all the legitimate questions that are asked. And I have a lot of respect for Prime Minister Andriy Yermak, who asks very precise, technical questions, and so we need to make progress. The goal is to finalize this by the next European Council, so before Christmas. And the Commission will also be announcing decisions in the coming days. The objective is to ensure that these assets are well protected, if I may say, from any change, and that we manage to keep control over them and that international rules are respected, but that we find suitable solutions to provide Ukraine with visibility and funding for its effort, for long-term war efforts, funding the support of its armies and their structure over the long term. And so we continue the work with diligence and respect. As for matters of corruption, I will let President. For a complete peace plan, Ukraine needs to be at the table, Russia at the table, and the Europeans at the table. So it's not happening just yet, but it will come. Since last February, we've been preparing, particularly on the issue of security guarantees, which is important for two reasons. The first is to ensure this peace is lasting for Ukraine so that it doesn't face another aggression like in 2014 and 2022. And for us, Europeans, to contain Russian power and prevent it from getting closer. And so, in this regard, we have prepared and made all this planning within the framework of the coalition of the willing. And now, we are ready to negotiate. Similarly, we will have finalized the work, as I mentioned to your colleague, in the coming days, on the issue of frozen Russian assets. So, there are a series of topics like this that will ultimately form a peace plan to which we will be led, in which Europeans will have a central role, because several of the topics I reiterated during this press conference cannot be decided without the Europeans.